Hello, welcome to the channel that aims to bring some light into games left in the dark. This is From the Void. Between the last video and this one, this channel hit 1000 subscribers, as well as 75,000 views. And I really want to thank all of you for your support, whether it was just watching the videos or leaving a comment or subscribing. It really means a lot to me. I'm overjoyed about surpassing this milestone, which I realize for many are very small numbers, but for me seemed impossible just a few months ago. So truly, thank you so much. The last 4 videos I made were concentrating more on PlayStation 3 and Vita, but in this one I am returning to a previous series. Don't worry though, I will certainly return to the PlayStation 3 and Vita, but I would really like to see how you guys react to this. In this video I will be talking about hidden gems on the Switch. Instead of brushing through 50 games roughly 1 minute each, in this series I will be concentrating in 10 or so games and we'll be talking about them for 2 or 3 minutes each, to give you a more comprehensive analysis, a mini review of each one. I hope you enjoy it. Now let's get to the games. How long has it been since you played a truly unique side-scroller shooter? Well, you are about to reset that counter. Get ready for Jet Lancer. This game goes for a clean look with bright colors and good-looking backdrops, while the eyes of the player will be concentrating in the mayhem that fills the screen with multiple enemy aircrafts and dozens of bullets flying around, while the camera sits very far away, giving this game a very interesting look that suits the gameplay perfectly. It looks really good in my opinion, nothing fancy, but really gets the job done. In this game, you take control of Jet Fighter Ash, and the story in this is surprisingly deep and the dialogues are funny, which was something I really wasn't expecting. This game is surprising in a lot of great ways actually. The gameplay in Jet Lancer is outstanding. First of all, this is not your typical auto-scroller shooter. This is more of a dogfight shooter, where you have access to 3 different types of weapons that can be modified in the engineering bay, where you can customize your Lancer with perks to improve its durability as well. It's cool to tinker around with the combinations you can do to find one that suits your style as well as the challenge at hand. And there are plenty of different challenges in this game, as the stages are divided into escort missions, endurance missions, and ones where you should just wipe out all enemies from sight. And of course, the boss fights, which are pretty awesome. The movement is based on momentum, where you can use your normal propulsion or the more powerful jets to position yourself strategically or pursue enemy aircrafts. You can also barrel roll to dodge incoming bullets and get your weapon powered up for a brief period. All this results in a spectacular gameplay that provides some very exciting and fulfilling chase moments. This is a long game for an indie shooter, taking around 10 hours if you kind of rush through it, or around 15 or even more hours if you try to go for the optional stuff. And there will be plenty of challenges waiting for you. This is not an easy game to beat. If you're at all interested in aircraft shooters, this is a must play. Spectacular game right here that is going under the radar of a lot of people, unfortunately. Now, this one is something else. Songbird Symphony. This is a beautiful looking side-scroller full of life in its animations, cutscenes and music. The premise is also very interesting. You control little Burb here, who is pretty much living in a ugly duckling situation, as he was adopted by a peafowl and all others make fun of him for being different. So you set out on a quest to find Burb's true origins. The gameplay is a mix of exploration with a tiny bit of platforming and puzzle solving, but the star of the show here is the rhythm-based gameplay. And this game really shines here because of the presentation during the rhythm sections, providing an unbelievable amount of production value, which elevates this game to a rare level of grandeur. Every single rhythm section is widely different from the previous one, making each one incredibly exciting and engaging. Every time, the notes will be presented to you in a different way, and you keep unlocking new notes, which translates to new buttons to press, increasing the challenge. Other than the rhythm gameplay, you walk around the beautiful world they created for this game, and in each area there will be several things you can interact with through bits of platforming or puzzle solving in order to make them produce sounds. Every time you unlock one of them, a new instrument is added to the music. It's all very delightful. This game will last you around 6 hours, and there are extra feathers scattered around, which will take an extra hour or so to find them all. Songbird Symphony is a spectacular game in terms of presentation and gameplay. And since I see no one really highlighting this game out there, I'm really happy to bring this to your attention. I highly recommend this one, give it a try. Next, Akane. This is probably one of the simplest games I've ever played, but at the same time, within its simplicity, it manages to create one of the most enticing and addictive experiences I've had in a while. The presentation is as basic as it can get. It's just this one screen you're seeing, which is set in a cyberpunk future with lots of neon colors. There are no other locations in this game. This certainly sounds very underwhelming right now, but stick with me. There isn't much of a story here either, outside of the tutorial and the ending scene. But basically, a bunch of gang dudes are out to kill you, and you just kill them instead, that's it. The gameplay is basically a hack and slash endless endurance mode, where you gotta kill hordes of enemies, but there is an ending locked behind completing all of the challenges. The genius in this game lies in improving your reflexes and learning how to position yourself, and all of that is only made possible because of how great the controls are in this game. You have your normal sword slash, a gun, a special move, a dash, a block stance capable of deflecting attacks and bullets, and the powerful adrenaline rush. It takes a while to get how and when to use all these moves, especially the adrenaline rush that requires you to press 2 buttons in conjunction, but this control scheme is tailor-made to provide a very engaging gameplay. That's because Akane has a stamina bar that will prevent her from using her sword for a brief period of time once it's depleted. So to circumvent this restriction and give her time to catch her breath, you can use your gun to take out some guys and still keep your combo up, but your gun soon runs out of bullets, so you can't abuse it. You will have to kill enemies with the sword to replenish them. This is a simple but genius balance that really makes this game loads of fun to play. There is a wide variety of challenges to beat, each one unlocking a new equipment to improve your odds and suit your style, which provides a great sense of progression even when you die. This is a very challenging game, but also not very long, lasting at least around 5 hours, but really depends on your skill. If you're looking for a great arcadey challenge game to burn some hours and feel very good about it while you progress, Akane is a fantastic option. Now, Colt Canyon. This is a pretty cool game. First of all, the graphics are very interesting. It goes for a very simplistic look, especially in the color palette, but it's clearly intentional to convey the desolate, arid, Wild West atmosphere and really succeeds in this attempt, resulting in a very unique and interesting look in this game. The setup is very simple. Bandits kidnapped your partner, so you'll have to kill your way to find her and bring her back. The gameplay is really tight. The shootouts will always give you an adrenaline rush, and the progression is great too. Basically, the game is divided into 3 big areas, each comprised of 3 stages and a boss fight at the end. In every stage, except the boss screens, there will be an ally being held captive. If you free them, they will give you 4 options of power-ups, including getting them to follow you and help you in the shootouts. In terms of gameplay loop, this is a roguelike, so if you die, you go back to stage 1. The only things you unlock are new characters and new weapon setouts, but the characters have wildly different stats. Some are slow, resistant and powerful, some are quick and fragile, and others have unique abilities such as Eagle May, who can wield bows and crossbows with expertise, but on the other hand is awful with firearms. Colt Canyon has a very satisfying gameplay, however, this is a very difficult game to beat, mainly because of the last boss fight. In my opinion, they messed up in the difficulty for this last fight. It's just way too difficult. Really, I had to come up with an entire new strategy to have a shot at beating him. If you're also having trouble, you can try doing this. Use Eagle May, the Native American girl, because she's the most nimble out of all of the characters. And that's important because the final boss has a very difficult shooting pattern to dodge. However, her drawback is that she really sucks with any kind of gun, so you'll have to use bows and especially crossbows. Try getting the power-up that improves the piercing and damage of your arrows, and the one that reduces the speed of enemy bullets. And also try to get the better TNT launchers as your secondary weapon. And that's the only way I could beat him or even get anywhere near doing so. But even doing all this, it is still insanely difficult to finish this game, so be prepared for a lot of attempts. It took me somewhere between 20 to 25 hours to beat this game, but I really enjoyed myself because the gameplay is really solid. If you're up for a real Wild West challenge, give Colt Canyon a go. Following up with a very hidden gem called Linelight. What to say about the graphics in this one, really? It's so unique yet so simple. I was really impressed by it. The music was also surprising to me. They went for really soothing and subtle tunes, such as the one you're listening to in the background now. I found the music really enjoyable in Linelight. This is 100% a puzzle game where you control the line segment that has to get from point A to point B while collecting these optional yellow rhombuses. It's all very simple. Every stage will only take seconds to beat for the most part, but it's so much fun, and I felt that the challenges were on point in this game. It adds new aspects to the puzzles, such as moving pathways, different types of enemy line segments, and locked doors for which you need to figure out how to get the key and unlock them to move forward. For this type of game, Linelight is actually kind of long. It will take at least 5 hours to beat, and optional challenges can double that amount. This is a great puzzle game that is unique and completely unknown for most people, even puzzle fans out there. Give it a try if you're into puzzles. Now, Kaze and the Wild Masks. This is a great looking pixel art game from Brazilian developer Pixel Hive, with colorful environments, detailed animation and well done cutscenes to boot. Really outstanding artwork in this game. The objective here is to travel through the Crystal Islands to find a way to save your friend who has been afflicted by a curse. The gameplay structure here is exactly like a more recent Donkey Kong Country game, Returns or Tropical Freeze. The levels are a bit longer than a Mario side-scroller level. You can take one hit and on the second one you die. You have 4 letters to collect that spell Kaze. There are bonus challenges hidden throughout the levels. I mean, if there is any fault to this game, it would be the lack of originality in the structure, because this is pretty much Donkey Kong Country with a very different coat of paint. Instead of the shooting barrels, we got this shooting what are those? And instead of the animal mounts, we have the wild masks that change the appearance and the abilities of your rabbit character. The masks are pretty cool actually, with well done transformation scenes for each one. Despite copying all these mechanics from Donkey Kong, it does all of them really well, and I really don't mind reusing the same ideas from previous games as long as it's done in interesting ways, and this game has so much personality to it that it totally compensates for the lack of originality in the game's mechanisms. Kaze and the Wild Masks is not a long game. It will last you around 5 hours, but if you want to try more difficult challenges, you have the option of going for no damage runs and time attack runs, which will increase the duration in extra 4 hours or so. The last world and final boss are challenging, but not to any insane degree, so the challenge felt about right, fitting this game very well. In conclusion, this is a great recent platformer that makes up in an abundance of personality whatever it lacks in originality, and therefore providing a truly delightful experience for fans of this genre. Now, Semblance. Graphics department, this game really stands out in my opinion, even though it's mostly composed of simple shapes with round edges. What makes this game stand out is its color palette, composed mostly of purples and greens, and the contrast between these two colors also serves the gameplay, since the story revolves around saving the natural habitats from the crystal corruption that took over most of them. Other than that, there isn't much of a story here, even though you'll run across a bunch of these wall paintings, but I couldn't really decipher what they're trying to tell here. As for the gameplay, this is a very clever puzzle platformer, very balanced between these two aspects actually, lots of puzzle solving and lots of platforming challenges as well. Semblance uses a very interesting and unique mechanic where your blob guy can deform any surface that has a darker shade by dashing into it. So you'll be bending the surfaces in a bunch of different ways to reach the orbs that allow you to progress, as well as a number of different collectibles. As with any game of this genre, the puzzle designs are what will decide how good of a game this is. And let me tell you, this is a spectacular puzzle platformer, undeniably. They keep adding new twists to the bending formula, such as surfaces launching your blob once they revert back to the normal position, or bending your blob instead of the surfaces, and the different effects that this can cause. There wasn't a single instance where I wasn't enjoying this game, even when I got stuck at some of the harder puzzles, and there are quite a few of head scratchers in this one, but nothing felt unfair. This game will take you between 4 to 5 hours to beat, even if you go for the collectibles, which aren't too many. I hear zero people talking about Semblance, so I guess it's one that just passed largely unnoticed, which is a huge shame, because this is one of the best puzzle platformers out there, no doubt about it. Next is a neat little Metroidvania that should not be overlooked, Gato Roboto. This one comes with a nice looking black and white pixel art, but the palette can actually be changed to several other dual tone combinations, which you unlock as you find them as collectibles throughout the game. And those are very nice. I really enjoyed switching through all the different palettes in this game. The story is very humorous actually. The human guy is stuck in the spaceship that crashed, and he sends his cat on a quest to get him free and figure out the weird stuff that is going on in this place. But the cat is not any kind of anthropomorphic, intelligent being, it's just a regular cat that only responds in meows. So the interactions are really funny throughout the whole game. As you can see, this is very much inspired in the earlier Metroid games, but there are many personality traits in this one that sets it apart. For instance, you have your mecha suit, but at any time you can eject the cat and explore small crawl spaces and other places only reachable as the cat. And since there are plenty of useful and interesting collectibles and lore scattered around, the exploration aspect is a huge highlight in this game. Another great aspect about this game is how fast-paced it is. Your cat is nimble even inside the different suits, and the combat is very well balanced with your missiles in a cooldown, so not to allow the player to abuse them, and also avoiding the need to have limited ammo. The boss fights are also great, providing some nice challenges to an otherwise easy game, which is also really short. Even if you go for 100% of the collectibles, it won't last you over 4 hours, so it's a nice one to beat in one sitting. But there is an incentive to do speed runs, another aspect that is inspired by the Metroid games. In conclusion, this is a very short but very sweet Metroidvania that is incredibly stress-free and just delightful to play. Next up is a brilliant game, Katana Zero. This is probably the most well-known game on today's list, but is still underappreciated, deserving even more recognition in my opinion. This game simply excels in every single aspect. First of all, this is among the best looking pixel art games in existence in my opinion. Just really gorgeous graphics and flashy animations full of striking special effects. The music is outstanding, providing some really cool techno tracks that really fit the gameplay. And the story here is also really interesting, dealing with psychological issues, government secrets, psychoactive substance abuse, and a lot more. But it's important to say that it's a hard plot to follow, because it's intentionally convoluted or vague at times, to leave the player guessing what is real and what isn't. The gameplay is spectacular. Your guy, referred to as the Dragon, has premonition powers and insanely superhuman speed and reflexes, which are translated into gameplay with the slowdown mechanic and with the fact that all failed attempts on your part are handled as premonitions from the main character that wouldn't succeed in his favor, so he just foresees a new course of action until one reaches the desired outcome. With the slowdown mechanic, the Dragon can perform some awesome looking katana slashes, which can even deflect bullets with ease, and he can also violently throw stuff at enemies as well as perform a rolling dash. The boss fights are some of the best in the entire side-scroll action genre in my opinion. There are some relatively tough segments to pull off, but it never feels like a drag because of all the different ways in which you can handle the situations. It just feels amazing to play this game. Katana Zero will last around 5 hours, and there is a secret ending that will require you to give some specific answers and beat a different boss in the end, so you can go for a second run of this game for more Katana Zero awesomeness. Also, the DLC for this game is scheduled to come out sometime this year, 2021, and will be free and substantial, lasting around 2 extra hours at least. This is a must-play game for any kind of action fans, one of the most awesome games I've ever played. Do not skip on Katana Zero. Next is a very quirky RPG, West of Loathing. Graphics-wise, this is pretty much as simple as it can get, with black and white visuals and stick figures with hats and guns. You control the protagonist, for which you can choose a name, gender, and ambitions. The character wants to leave their family's farm to search their dreams. In this game, you basically walk around the settlements you run across in search of quests that will grant you some money and important items that will allow you to keep advancing your way west until you reach your final destination. But of course, on your way will be all manner of crazy and unpredictable obstacles, including aliens, ghosts, cows from hell, and a jelly bean museum. Yes, a jelly bean museum. This game has some great writing actually. It is very funny sometimes, and the RPG stuff is actually surprisingly interesting. You pick one of 3 classes to begin: the Cowpuncher, the Bean Slinger, or the Snake Oiler. All very amusing choices, which will grant you a wide variety of abilities to use in battle. There is an interesting balance in the battle system, since the enemies get tougher as you level up, so grinding feels unnecessary for the most part, and you always have access to information such as damage you will be dealing and enemies' vulnerabilities. The challenge lies more in figuring out how to progress in the game to find yourself better gear and weapons, so to make some of the fights easier, and the obstacles thrown your way are always very creative and unusual. I had a lot of fun just following the narrative of this game. The whole experience will last you a bit over 10 hours, but with the amount of side quests and different outcomes, there is a lot of value in a second playthrough. This is a surprisingly competent RPG despite the look it goes for, and with a very fun story and narrative. If you like your games to be full of information, both in the gameplay and in the storytelling, this is a must-play for you. Next up, a really weird hidden gem on the Switch, Atomicrops. In terms of presentation, this has a pleasant cartoonish pixel art look, kind of SNES looking. I like it very much. The setting here is that some sort of nuclear apocalypse happened and all sorts of creatures have become mutated. You are a human person trying to grow your crops in the midst of nuclear mutation chaos so that your settlement can survive. Pretty crazy premise here. And how does this translate into gameplay, you must be questioning? Well, this is a mix of twin stick shooter with farming sim Harvest Moon style. Pretty crazy combination too. It works like this. Day and night are very different. During the day, you can do your farming tasks without anything to worry about, and you can also go outside and hunt for more seeds and some power-ups. But at night, your farm will be attacked by waves of monsters or by a boss. To make it possible for the player to do the farming tasks as well as defend the farm, the control scheme in this game is very unintuitive. You cycle through your seeds with L and R, while ZR will be the one button to do any kind of farming related actions such as plowing, cutting grass and sowing seeds. So this button will be somewhat context sensitive, so you'll have to pay attention to where your guy is looking at, which makes things a bit confusing for a while. Once you get this, you can fully appreciate the frenetic nature of defending your farms and growing your crops to exchange them for several types of currencies, which you will then use to get better weapons, replenish your life and get all sorts of items including livestock to help you grow crops or defend your farm, and bridge repair kits to gain access to farther areas where you'll find tougher enemies and better items. If you die, it's back to square one, making this another roguelike title. You can unlock better characters that have different traits as you survive longer in your runs. Atomicrops is a very challenging game. Surviving a whole year, which consists of only 12 days, is a very difficult task, so it's hard to say how much time it will take you, but it will be probably around 10 hours of gameplay, maybe a few hours less or more than that. This is a very unique game that has a considerably steep learning curve to overcome and is on the chaotic side of video games. So it's not for everyone, but if you like those aspects, this game can provide many hours of fun. And this is it for now. If you want to know about even more hidden gems on the Switch, look in the description for the links to the other videos on this series. Hope this was enjoyable, informative or entertaining to you. And do let me know what you think of this series and which games would you include in your hidden gems list. I'm very curious to know. Again, thank you so much for subscribing and helping the channel reach the 1000 mark. I really appreciate it a lot. It is a huge motivation to redouble my efforts to make these videos in the best quality possible. Thanks for watching and I'll see you soon.